Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Susan Plank. It is a pleasure to have you here. We are talking about stress eating and also how that relates to insulin resistance and weight gain. So there's a lot to sort of package together, but I wanted to present this webinar at this time of year. First of all, you know, the seasons change for us here in the Northeast, the seasons change. And, you know, with everything that's been going on, I think stress eating is sort of the go-to, stress eating or whatever you're drinking. And then when we tend to get in habits, if we don't break those habits, we tend to get in habits. And those habits can lead to, depending on what our stress foods, our favorites that we go to, can actually lead to usually a lot of carbs and starches going in, which can lead to insulin resistance. And then either one of those, overeating and or insulin resistance, can lead to weight gain. So that's a topic tonight. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, please just reach out. You can pop them in the chat there, and I'll try to do my best to get you a good answer. I do have a special for labs that relate to, because stress is caused by an increase in our adrenal stress hormones, cortisol, also known as the belly fat hormone. And so we can measure those in a specialty test. We can get multiple readings throughout the day. If you're like some folks, hey, you're good the whole day. You're good the whole day, going through work, everything else, and you're like, oh, I forgot to even eat lunch. I didn't even eat lunch. But then you get home and you have a dinner, and maybe 20 minutes later, 45 minutes later, you crack the bottle of wine, or you want something sweet, you get into the pantry, and maybe it's the potato chips, and you just don't stop. And so there can be physical causes of that, which we're talking about, insulin resistance, but also to the emotional causes that I want to delve into, those that are really triggering our stress hormones. And then also too, part of that special, we're actually going to check, because a lot of folks are wondering, do I have insulin resistance? Boy, you know, by the symptoms, it seems that I do. If you do, let's get you tested. And if you don't, let's get you tested. But that's the only way we're going to know, is to get you tested, right? So rather than guess, that's my big thing in working in weight loss. Folks think they're overeating, or they think it's this, or they think it's that. I'm very much a proponent of, if we don't test, it's a guess. And until we find the cause of your weight gain, whatever that might be, until we truly identify the cause, whether hormones or inflammation, or, you know, eating the wrong foods, or your thyroid's off, or stress, whatever it happens to be, we need to know so we can have the approach and the strategy to target that. So my name's Dr. Susan Plank. Again, wonderful to have you here. And again, any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and just post them there. So what exactly is stress eating? And why is it really truly occurring? You know, it's one of those ones that like I just gave the example of eating, and then soon after eating is when you want, just throwing things out there, the alcohol or the salt or the sugar. And part of this webinar is I want you to come away from this maybe being a little bit more empowered, maybe being able to ask yourself a few questions, or challenge yourself on what type of day that you had. If these are happening, you know, these cravings and stress eating is happening at the end of your day, or honestly at any point in your day, what were the emotions? What was happening that preceded that? How was it you were, the whole day you were good, and then you couldn't stay away from the Reese's peanut butter cups that are supposed to be for trick-or-treaters? How can you you have self-control the whole day. And then in that moment of weakness after dinner, you just sort of, 3 Reese's cups goes in before you can stop yourself. And that's what we sort of want to delve into. So the physical aspects of it, but a little bit of the psychological, the emotional aspects too, of what's going on. Why are we looking at food to comfort our emotions? Because that's exactly what stress eating is. So, stress in food. I was doing a little bit of research. I do a blog and a radio show. And do you know potato chips? It depends on really what the periodical and things you look at. But potato chips actually come in right behind love as drivers of addiction. So there's love, and then there's potato chips. And I guess we can put the two together as the love of potato chips, right? But then we have things on there, lower down is sugar, but we have painkillers, and we have medications that people have come addicted to, and alcohol that people have come addicted to. So in this one that I was looking at, I was a little surprised to see potato chips as number 2. But when we look at the science of food, and really it's not necessarily food that we crave, right? When we're stress eating, it's not like, oh boy, that apple is that apple's gonna satisfy what I'm going through. I had such a rough day. That apple just looks delicious. Or a bowl of blueberries is just going to do it for me. It's not. Our brain kicks over. And when our brain kicks over, that's caused by neurotransmitters, and it's caused by the adrenal stress hormones that we've actually carried with it, the emotions of what we've gone through the day and through our life sometimes, and through our losses. And we've carried that stuff with us. And now it breaks through, and it's a repetition of behavior because of the flooding of neurotransmitters and adrenal stress hormones. And so we're driven to have these cravings when we stress eat for salty, crunchy, sugary, right? Alcohol. Those are going to be the big ones. So not at all do, I want you, if you're sort of flipping past here going, oh, what's this webinar about? Those are things that we have to tackle. But what tends to go along with those is a lot of guilt, right? After you do it, before now you're going to go, later on, you're going to go lay down, go to bed, and maybe you just did dive into the Reese's peanut, the Halloween candy, or, half a bottle of wine later, or something along those lines. And that guilt hits you, right? And now you're beating yourself up for something that I want you to realize there's a different approach to it. There's a different way we can work together to come out the other side and not have those foods have the power over us. But what we have to do is identify what the cause is, identify what the trigger is. And it's different for everybody. There's some common ones, but it's different for everyone of what that trigger is that makes you reach for the things that then you're going to feel guilty about later on. And it feeds into the cycle, right? It just makes you feel worse. So cortisol and hunger. When you first are under stress, maybe you have a deadline at work and you're feeling some anxiety, some stress over that deadline, or a speaking presentation or something, and you're nervous or anxious. Initially, typically what happens is folks will lose their appetite. So that anxiety, that stress, and our stress response will lose our appetite. But it's when it's chronic stress, when we keep getting bombarded with stress, when we keep having demands on us. If you're a mom, but you're also a daughter of parents that are elderly are on their way. If you're a caregiver of anyone that's ill or suffering, if you have a loss, a divorce, loss of a job, loss of financial stability, loss of a loved one, these are all types of chronic stresses. You're not a parent for, a couple of hours and right? That's those things that are going on, the child, the rearing of children, the parents as they age and they start falling, work, it takes a toll. And so this is exactly what I'm talking about, the physical manifestations, which are driven by our neurotransmitters and our adrenal stress hormones, which are DHEA and cortisol. Okay. Cortisol is otherwise known as the belly fat hormone. Long term, in the short term, it's going to get turned off, but long-term stress makes cortisol go through the roof, and you're going to have uncontrollable urges. Like, I just can't stop myself. It's just, I just go to town and, I could just polish off a 2-pound bag of M&Ms. I don't know. But, it's along those lines where you just feel like you've just lost control, even though, earlier in the day you were thought, yes, I'm going to stick to this eating plan and I got under control. This is exactly what happens. So we have to check the cortisol levels, and rather than to just do it in blood, we can do it in blood. But with blood, we'll get these levels just sort of first thing in the morning, where cortisol should be higher first thing in the morning. It's the hormone that wakes us up, gets us ready for our day. So we actually have what's known as the cortisol awakening response, that when we first get out of bed, cortisol is going to be at the highest. So if you're going to go out the door and go, oh, I got to go get this blood work done, you go get the blood work done and your cortisol sort of in this range, it looks high. We don't know what's happening the whole rest of the day. Is it staying high? Is it now dropping out? What's happening, right? And that's what we need to find out, because now we can target these natural treatments that we do at specifically the time of day when you're experiencing the most stress. And a lot of times the morning reading isn't necessarily the one that's the highest out of the whole day, the most concerning, put it that way. So, emotional transparency, I put this slide in because it's tough. It's tough to talk about your emotions. It's tough to feel vulnerable. Number one, you have to have someone you can talk to. You can rely on somebody you feel it's not going to judge you. That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. Number two, for a lot of folks right now, it's that comfort level of how comfortable are you being face to face with someone? How comfortable can you do it? Where you get to see somebody's expressions and you don't have to mask up and, all these things where you're really having the heart to heart. And number three, it's what is your behaviors and your thought patterns to get you to where you can sort of open up? Because I think a lot of sort of girlfriends, hey, let's go out for happy hour, right? It doesn't matter if they're in their 20s or if they're in their 60s. Let's go out to happy hour and let's grab a bite to eat. It's sort of perpetuating, it's becoming part of the problem, right? Is sharing the emotions of how your life is going, how your relationships are, what's going on in your life that's causing the stress. But the environment, out with the girls of what you do, or out with the guys for a game and beer and chicken wings, you're not necessarily making the healthier choices, but it's a way to actually communicate and socialize. So do you see how I mean? These things sort of start to get a little murky, and we need those social interactions. And of course, we're going to have cravings, but we need to be able to control them in a way to where we're not stress eating, not worrying about insulin resistance, do we have it or not, and definitely not putting on extra pounds through the holidays. So what I like then is it's more mindful eating. If you're going out with the girls, then I want you to say, hey, I'm really, my new thing is I really want to try to take care of myself. So instead of, fries with cheese on it or wings or pizza, I'm going to get a salad, but I'm still going to have a glass of wine. Hey, at least you made a conscious choice. You got your brain involved and you shared that with those that you care about. So it's going to make your life easier over time because your friends and family do want to support you. So it really is a great thing if you can open up, share with them, hey, maybe they're feeling the same way as you. And it's always much better to have a buddy when you're trying to go through support, right? Whether you're trying to lose weight or just change your eating, change behaviors, it's great to have friends that are supportive and with you. They're with you along that path. Now, again, I have to mention this, mental health and gut health. We're finding that the gut biome really controls a lot. And we're finding very specifically, it actually controls and helps with weight loss, much more so than we ever really realized. But we're also seeing that the neurotransmitters of the brain, the GABA, the dopamine, those neurotransmitters, again, if they're out of balance, they are also causing stress. And so those can change eating habits as well. So we're looking at what the habit is and what's the behavior and sort of what came first, the chicken or the egg. So one thing that I found, and I really try to get my clients to do it. In fact, we do it online with a food diary, an app online, and I have folks, sort of put in their foods, what they're eating each day. They're keeping a virtual and online food diary for me, and I can zero in, and we can definitely start to pick up patterns. Is there a stressful time in the person's life? Is there stress and changes in eating around menstrual cycles or a monthly type of thing? Is it that every weekend the person is woohoo, can't control the eating and drinking then, and it's sort of the party warrior mentality? We need to see, are there patterns, because we have to figure out what's going on to be able to address those. So the food prepping is a big part that I never want folks to think, hey, I'm gonna lose 30 pounds and then I can go back to eat what I want to eat. That's just not the way I want folks to look at their health. It's just not the way I want you to look at it. I want you to change your relationship with food. And so maybe initially what I got to cut out the pizza and the wine, or at least cut back on it, right? Change the relationship with food. But once that weight is coming off, once we start to balance things like hormone imbalances and insulin resistance, and we bring the blood sugar down, when we start to pull the stress hormones, from being through the roof, we start to pour those into more of a normalized pattern throughout the day. Now it frees us up because the person usually physically and emotionally feels so much better. We can loosen up those reins on the food. So in fact, I joke all the time of diets like a dirty 4-letter word, right? Diet, it just the connotation is that it's short term. So I want to look more at what can I do, if I can do anything, what can I do to help support your life and your lifestyle, that you can go out with the girls, you can go watch the Steelers, you can go through life and feel empowered. And you're going to be able to have the slice of pizza, and you're going to be able to have the beer with the guys. You're going to be able to do these things, but not let them be catastrophic, not let them seep into now your behavior has changed. And a big part of that is then wrapped around food prep and having foods ready when you're ready to dive into something. I joked earlier about the apple. Oh, I had a terrible day. So yeah, doesn't that apple look delicious when I'm bypassing, a glass of wine and the chocolate cream-filled donut that I know is in the freezer. And, I'd probably be gnawing on a frozen donut. But the reality of it is we're all going to do it. We're all going to do it. But the control of it, the steps that you can put in, if you can slow your thought process down and challenge yourself on why you want to do it, and in that slowing down of the thought process, that you can physically give yourself options to reach for, instead of experiencing that guilt later when you're going to bed, we might get a different emotion of, oh, I have a different choice. I can choose the apple slices, right? And maybe I'll put a little honey on them, or maybe even a little caramel this time of year. But we can make different choices that aren't going to end up being the half bag of potato chips. So it's really what I try to do, and I offer, and please, if you're interested in talking to me, I offer a free consultation. It's called Your Best Next Step. And in that, that's what I'm looking at is sort of a lifestyle analysis. What's working? What isn't? What are your goals? You know, what have you been trying to do to meet these goals? And so we want to have a holistic approach. We want to look at everything that's going on, your whole health, what's going on with the job, what's going on with your relationships, where are you at in life? Because these things are going to affect you. So we want to make sure that we have an approach that is all encompassing. And I call that the lifestyle analysis. If you're interested in taking advantage, let me just throw it out there, of the free consultation, head on over to my website, norwinwellness.com, and you're going to see how to work with me. You can fill out an online assessment. You can do that for free. We can hop on a call. You can scrape their schedule on my calendar. I would love to be able to talk to you and see how I can best help you with food craving, stress eating. If you think you have insulin resistance, let's talk about it a little bit more, or maybe you have some weight to lose. So eating disorders, again, eating disorders are when that relationship with food now really gets hijacked and gets waylaid, that a person now looks at themselves and sees, typically they're going to see a person that's more normal, or actually even on a thinner side, but they're going to see them as overweight and potentially even obese. So it's a body dysmorphic type of vision that someone can have, and that will lead to these ways of how they handle their relationship with food. They'll eat the food, and then they need to get rid of the food. So we want to look at a person's patterns of behaviors overall and make sure that what we're looking at is realistic, right? Are we really being realistic? What is our best next step and our approach? I definitely want to talk about body image. There's a commercial that was on years ago, and I just chuckled about it. That they'd have men standing there, and men say, "Oh, these shorts look tight on my thigh," or I don't look good in this t-shirt or something, and they had them saying it, and as a woman, you'd watch this, and it just seems so ludicrous, because you'd never imagine, right, a man saying the phrases that were associated with women. And yet men and women each have this shame and these very strong feelings associated with their body image. So we have everything from, hey, big is beautiful, right? Where the person says, oh no, big's beautiful, I don't have to change anything. And yet by their labs, nothing's going to change until they have that coronary, and then something's going to change. All right. And then over here, we have the person who's like skinny fat. And what I mean by skinny fat is that their relationship with food, they're eating whatever they want, but they're not gaining any weight. But they're eating what they want still tends to be the sweets, the non-healthy foods. So that person, you're going to look at them and go, oh boy, I wish I looked like them. but they're still not healthy. They have a higher percent body fat. And that's why I call them skinny fat, right? It's a skinny fat person that they look, everybody would walk past and go, wow, I'd kill to be that size. And yet the reality of it is they are some of the most unhealthy people around, because they've justified their eating habits and they've gotten away with it without gaining weight and not being noticed as being heavy. They haven't picked that up, or overweight, or, hey, I need to lose weight or take care of myself. Exercise is this is just my big fallacy with the stress eating and cravings. Exercise is not going to cut it, guys. If you're a stress eater, please don't stress eat, which I know some of you do. You stress eat, and then you're going to go to the gym, and then you're going to hit the elliptical and the treadmill and work out like a banshee. And chances are you're going to make yourself sick. You're going to get muscle cramps. You're going to have headaches. You're not going to feel great either during or after, up to the next morning or afternoon after that type of workout. You can't put too much non-food, non-nutritious food in and then expect the body to go gangbusters and really put a stress on the cardiovascular system and expect your body to respond well. I want you to sort of look at the logic here. You can't put junk food in and then put physical demands on the body and expect to feel great afterwards. It's just not going to work. So please, if you even remotely think that you're a stress eater, or you're driven by cravings, please don't get in this pattern of doing it and then going to the gym to try to burn it off, because you are damaging your body, some part of your body, the hormones, blood sugar, insulin resistance. You're doing something, even the muscles and the joints. You're doing something that your body just is not going to be able to continue to heal itself from. So, and of course we can't get away from this without the media, right? We see these foods everywhere. We see the foods that we want to reach for, the ones we know we shouldn't reach for, but we want to reach for them. They're just splashed up there, right? And so we have to be strong enough to say no. We have to be strong enough to change our behavior. But in my experience, I found until the individual understands what's driving that emotion, what's driving those choices, that behavior is going to continue. And that's where right now in the next couple of slides, I'd like to really discuss what those triggers are. So those triggers physically can be something like sugar. If somebody's blood sugar is dropping, okay, it's a condition called hypoglycemia if the blood sugar drops dramatically. But we can see reactive hypoglycemia where somebody eats a piece of cake, something sugary, candy, the blood sugar spikes, that insulin kicks in and there's insulin resistance, and now the blood sugar drops like a rock. The person's not going to feel very good. They're going to have, memory, I call it brain fog, memory disturbances. They're just going to, not be able to think what the heck is going on. They know something's not right, but they can't figure out why. The energy is going to get zapped. Mood changes. You've heard of the word hangry, right? You miss a meal and you get hangry. So you're angry when your blood sugar starts to drop. Can be more weepy, more emotional. And so it's the same thing, whether it's something like a piece of cake or it's something like a glass of wine, something that's going to be that type of trigger. But we also have emotions as well. And so not only is there hunger, right? But there's anger. If you're experiencing anger, so if you're in your day, right, you're at work and you're going through your day and boy, that boss just gets you, man. You did everything right for this presentation and you just sort of get knocked down. You just sort of get slammed and you didn't deserve it. And professionally, you can't show that anger, right? You got to swallow it. Well, you swallow it all right, you hold it in, and then when you get home at night, that's one of those emotions that's going to come out. That's stress eating. So that anger that you're holding in is one. Loneliness is another one. So if you're feeling lonely, if you're, not as close to your significant other or your friends as you used to be, which is understandable, but if you just feel like you can't reconnect, loneliness in relationships can also be a trigger for stress eating. Okay. Being tired. If you're tired, sometimes after dinner, maybe you should just go take a little, power nap. Because maybe you're up early. Maybe you didn't sleep well the night before. You've got a lot on your plate. And then another one is actually in the brain. The hydration center of the brain is right beside the center for food. So when was the last time you got, oh, I'm so mad, or man, I want a banana split? When was the last time you go, oh man, I'm so mad, I really want a glass of water? Right? The things you just like never say to yourself, but it can absolutely be one of the triggers. So I really want to empower you to look at and be aware of your physical feelings around stress eating, and because that will affect insulin resistance and weight gain. I want you to be aware of your emotional feelings, right, with stress eating and then insulin resistance and weight gain. And especially the emotional part, it really becomes a catch-22. It's like I said, that guilt and shame. You eat the wrong things, you try hard to lose weight, and you gain 2 pounds, and then you're beating yourself up for it. So please be kind, and let's really try to get you making healthier choices. And the other, I want you to do you. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to look at what do you need. It's one of the hardest things to see folks grapple with when we work together is what is driving their choices, their choice to reach for another alcoholic beverage, their choice to grab the bag and polish it off of potato chips. Again, like I said, sometimes those emotions that are really the closest, the feelings of loss and loneliness, boy, if they're not dealt with, they tend to just permeate and stay just under the surface. And that's where the cortisol and the neurotransmitters, when we isolate out what those levels are and we get those supported, it's like an epiphany. The person can now feel freer and handle loneliness and loss a lot better than when they were sort of knocked down. So please keep that in mind, is keep doing what you're doing, but maybe you look at life and you look at your choices and you see your behaviors and you're more empowered to stop what you're doing. So, how do you feel? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling, emotional, lonely, isolated? Are you thirsty? Are you angry? Are you hungry? And yet instead of eating a more nutritious meal, you're reaching for something fast or the drive-through. I want you to sort of put the brakes on life and the craziness of life and all your caregiving and everyone you're taking care of. And if you can just find a few minutes in a day to take a breath and put yourself in the bathroom at work or something, and close the door and just give yourself a few minutes in a day to think, how are you? How do you feel? And do you feel like you've got these things under control? Do you feel like you are empowered and you are able to maneuver? So I do appreciate you being here. We're done. But honestly, we are just getting started, because the key, like I said, the key is always in finding out what the triggers are for you It's important to find out where your lab numbers are. If you suspect, again, like you said, if you suspect insulin resistance, then let's get you tested. If you suspect that, hey, I put 15 or 20 pounds on during the pandemic, well, guess what? It is, at least part of it is going to be stress related, and we have to worry about cortisol. So definitely consider getting these things tested. You can contact me at the Norwood Wellness Center, and you can give us a call at 724-863-5420. I'd love to talk to you and find out what's going on, where you're at with things, and how I can best help you. So I want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate you stopping by and being here. Next month, the webinar is how to make this the best holidays ever. So that's exactly what we want. So thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. Anything I can do to help out, please let me know. Head over to norwoodwellness.com, get yourself set up for the best next step. It's a free consultation, and you can also fill out the online best next step health assessment, and we can go over all those. So I have a more holistic approach in how best to help you. Thanks again. Take care. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.